Madelyn Pierce didn't expect the overwhelming wave of nostalgia to hit her the second she stepped into the old brick building, but there it was, slamming into her chest like a freight train. The scent of aged paper, the quiet hum of fluorescent lights, and the soft creak of the floorboards under her boots, all of it yanked her back to a time when she was still dreaming of being a writer, before life had pulled the rug out from under her. She hadn't been back to her college campus in 5 years, not since her dad got sick, not since she dropped everything to work 2 jobs and take care of him. But today, with her father finally healthy and her freelance gigs picking up, she'd carved out time to visit the one place that had always felt like hers, the library. Madelyn ran her fingers along the edge of the fiction section, stopping at the same spot she used to sit in every afternoon after class. The old wooden table was still there, though the chair had been replaced. She smiled faintly, pulling out a book she'd read a dozen times. "A classic," a deep voice said beside her. She turned and froze. The man standing next to her didn't belong here. He looked like he belonged in a magazine spread or on the cover of Forbes. Tall, sharp jaw, piercing eyes that were either gray or blue, she couldn't quite tell, and a tailored black coat that probably cost more than her rent. He was holding a book in one hand, a leather-bound copy of something she couldn't make out. "I didn't mean to interrupt," he added, his lips twitching into something that wasn't quite a smile. "I just haven't seen anyone pick up that one in a while." Madelyn blinked. "You've read this 3 times," he said. "Twice in college, once last year. You went here?" she asked, surprised. He nodded. "Graduated a few years ahead of you, probably." "How do you know I didn't graduate with you?" He glanced down at the ID badge still clipped to her bag. "Your alumni tag says class of 19. Madelyn looked down and let out a soft laugh. "Right. Forgot I still had that on." For a moment they just stood there, the silence strangely comfortable. "I'm Roman Steele," he said finally, offering his hand. Madelyn shook it. "Madelyn Pierce." His grip was firm, warm. "You a writer?" She blinked at him. "How did you, the way you looked at that book, like you were dissecting it?" Her heart thudded. No one had ever said that to her before. "I'm trying to be," she admitted. "Freelance stuff, copywriting, the occasional essay, nothing big." He tilted his head, studying her. "That's something?" "What about you?" she asked. "What do you do now?" "Business," he said casually. "Tech investment, mostly boring stuff." She raised an eyebrow. He didn't look like someone who lived a boring life. But before she could press, the librarian called out, "Roman, your book's ready." He gave her a small nod. "Duty calls." Madelyn watched him walk off, confused by the strange flutter in her chest. She shook her head and sat down at the table, trying to refocus. But 10 minutes later, Roman returned, holding 2 lattes. "I figured you wouldn't mind," he said, holding one out to her. "Almond milk, just a guess," she frowned. "How did you know I was still here?" "I didn't," he said simply. "I hoped." Madelyn took the cup, her fingers brushing his. "You're not some kind of creep, are you?" Roman chuckled. "If I was, I wouldn't have asked that librarian to give you my number if you came back tomorrow." Her eyes widened. "You did what?" "I come here every Friday," he said. "Habit, something about this place helps me think if you're around. Maybe we grab another coffee." She didn't know what to say. The man was a stranger, a very attractive, strangely charming stranger, but something in her gut told her he wasn't dangerous. And something in his eyes, earnest, a little tired, but warm, made her feel like she'd already known him longer than 10 minutes. "I'll think about it," she said. He gave a soft nod. "Fair enough." And then he was gone. Madelyn stared after him, her heart doing things it hadn't done in a long time. The next Friday she came back. He was already there, sitting at the same table with 2 coffees and a copy of the book they'd talked about. He looked up when he saw her and his whole face lit up. "You came," he said. "I still think you might be a little weird," she replied, sitting down across from him. "I'm okay with that," he said. "Weird tends to be more interesting." They talked for hours, about books, about college. About how he'd started his first tech company in his dorm room and sold it before graduation. About how he now ran Steele Innovations, a venture capital firm that funded startups around the world. "You're a CEO?" she asked, stunned. "I don't really like that word," he said. "But yes. Why didn't you say that before?" He shrugged. "Didn't think it mattered." Madelyn shook her head in disbelief. "You know, most people lead with that. I'm not most people." She stared at him. "Clearly." Roman leaned in a little closer. "So, Madelyn Pierce. Do I get to see you again next Friday?" She hesitated, her pulse skipping. "Only if you bring the coffee." His smile was slow and genuine. "Deal." From that day on, they met at the library every Friday. Sometimes they stayed for hours, talking about everything and nothing. Sometimes they went for dinner afterward, nothing fancy yet, just a diner 2 blocks away where Roman always insisted on paying. And slowly, without even realizing it, Madelyn started to fall for him. One Friday it rained. Hard. Roman showed up soaked but grinning, holding a giant umbrella over her head as he led her back to his car. "This is your car?" she asked, staring at the sleek black Aston Martin parked by the curb. He gave her a sheepish look. "I told you, I don't like to lead with that." Madelyn stared at him. "You're seriously rich, aren't you?" Roman looked at her, serious now. "I am, but I'd give all of it away if it meant I'd still get to see you every Friday." Her breath caught. She opened her mouth to reply, but the words wouldn't come, not yet, but soon. Because what had started as a chance encounter in a library was starting to feel like something she couldn't ignore. Something real. "You're tense," Roman said, his voice low as he leaned back in the booth of the dimly lit French bistro. "You've been twisting that napkin into a rope for the last 5 minutes." Madelyn glanced down at her hands, startled to see the torn edge of her linen napkin frayed between her fingers. She let it go and forced a breath through her nose. The scent of butter and garlic drifted up from the table, but her appetite had vanished the moment she walked through the door. "I guess I'm just adjusting," she admitted, eyes flicking around the restaurant. She'd never been anywhere like this before. The chandeliers dripped with crystals, the waiters moved like dancers, and the walls were lined with wine bottles that probably cost more than her monthly rent. "Is it the place?" Roman asked. "We can go somewhere else." "No," she said quickly. "It's beautiful, just a lot." He nodded, then poured her a glass of wine from the bottle the sommelier had presented earlier. "You've never been here," she shook her head. "I've passed it. Window shopped the menu once or twice. But it always looked like the kind of place where someone like me wouldn't get past the front door." Roman's jaw shifted. "You're with me." Madelyn raised an eyebrow. "That's supposed to make me feel better. It's supposed to make you feel like you belong," he said. "Because you do." She stared at him for a moment, then took the wine glass and sipped. It was smoother than anything she'd ever tasted. She placed it down carefully. "I still don't know what you're doing here," she said. "With me." Roman leaned forward, resting his forearms on the table. "I'm here because I want to be. Because every time we talk, I forget about the noise. About meetings, deadlines, acquisitions, whatever else is on my calendar. You remind me of something I lost track of a long time ago." Madelyn folded her hands in her lap. "What's that?" "Real," he said simply. "You don't want anything from me. You don't try to impress me. You listen. You challenge me. You make me think." She swallowed hard. "That's not what most people say after a third dinner." "I'm not most people," he said, echoing the words he'd told her the first night they met. Madelyn's lips curved slightly. "No, you're not." Their entrees arrived wild mushroom risotto for her, steak au poivre for him, and for a while they ate in silence. But there was a tension now, a thread pulled taut between them. Roman set his fork down and reached for his wine. "Tell me something you've never told anyone." She paused, startled by the request. "Why?" "Because I want to know you," he said. "Not the version you think I want, the real one." She stared at her plate, then looked up. "Fine, I still write poetry, bad poetry. And I hide it in a folder on my laptop labeled taxes so no one ever finds it." Roman's eyes crinkled. "That's not bad, that's smart." "I didn't say smart poetry, I said bad poetry." "I'd still like to read some," she scoffed. "Not a chance." He leaned back. "All right. Your turn." "My turn, to ask something." She narrowed her eyes. Okay, why haven't you ever brought up your family? Roman's smile faded. Madelyn instantly regretted it. You don't have to know, he said, setting down his glass. It's fair. I asked you to be honest. She waited, unsure what he'd say. My parents died in a car crash the year after I graduated, he said. They left me the house, the stocks, the pressure to make something of it. I did. But I stopped talking about them because every time I succeeded, it felt like I was leaving them further behind. Madelyn's breath caught. Roman, I'm sorry, he nodded. You didn't know. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. Thank you for telling me. His hand closed around hers, warm and steady. You're the first person I've told that in over 4 years. A hush fell between them, weighted but not heavy, the kind that meant something had changed. Later, as they stepped out into the cool night air, Roman offered her his jacket. She hesitated. You don't have to, I want to, he said, draping it gently over her shoulders. It smelled like cedar and something crisp beneath it, something clean and expensive. They walked slowly down the sidewalk, the city quieter in this part of town. The moon hung low, casting a pale glow over the cobblestones. I should head back soon, she said, breaking the silence. Roman stopped walking. Can I drive you? She looked up at him, heart fluttering. You don't have to. I want to. His car was parked at the end of the block, sleek and spotless, but he didn't unlock it right away. Instead, he turned to her, his expression unreadable. I'm not good at this, he said. I've dated, but nothing ever lasted, I think. I stopped letting people close a long time ago. Madelyn's voice was soft. Then why are you letting me? He paused. Because I'm scared that one day you won't be around and I'll regret not trying. She didn't speak, didn't move, just stared at him, every nerve in her body humming. Roman stepped closer. I think about you all the time, not just when we're together. I'll be in a meeting or flying to another city and I'll wonder what you're doing, whether you're writing, whether you're okay, her voice caught. You don't have to say this, I know, he said. But I want to. She looked away for a second, then back at him. I'm scared too. Roman reached up, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Then we can be scared together. There, under the streetlight, he kissed her. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't showy. It was quiet, reverent, like an answer to a question neither of them had dared ask aloud. When they finally pulled apart, Madelyn's voice was barely above a whisper. What happens now? Roman didn't hesitate. Now, he said, we see what happens next. Roman stood on the rooftop terrace of the building he owned on East 61st, his hands in his pockets, watching the city lights flicker beneath the night sky. Behind him, the glass doors opened with a soft click. You live here? Madelyn asked, stepping into the open air. He turned slightly, nodding. Top 2 floors. She stepped forward slowly, taking it in. The rooftop space was lush with planters overflowing with ivy and lavender, a sleek fire pit glowing in the center, and beyond it, a view of the entire Manhattan skyline. Far below, the city pulsed with life, but up here, it was quiet. I thought you said you didn't like showing off, she said. I don't, he answered. But I wanted you to see this. I wanted you to know who I am when I'm not trying to disappear into the world. He gestured to the small table set under a pergola wrapped in string lights. 2 plates, a bottle of wine, a silver bowl of strawberries. I thought we could skip the restaurant tonight, he said. Madelyn looked at him, her voice low. Why now? Because I want to stop pretending I'm someone else when I'm with you. He walked closer, stopping just in front of her. And because I've been wanting to ask you something. She tilted her head. What? Roman reached into his coat and pulled out a small, leather-bound notebook. He handed it to her. She opened it slowly. Inside, the pages were filled with short pieces, some messy, some neat. Raw, vulnerable, and unmistakably hers, her eyes shot up. How did you get these? I found the file, he said. On your laptop, you left it open one night when you fell asleep on the couch. I didn't read everything. Just enough to know you're hiding something beautiful. You weren't supposed to see those, she whispered. I know. Tears welled in her eyes. That was the only thing I didn't want you to see. I think it's the part of you I needed to see most. She closed the notebook and held it against her chest. You should have asked. I should have, he admitted. She stared at him. So why didn't you? Because I was afraid if I asked, you'd take it away before I could read a single word. Silence stretched between them, carried by the wind. I'm not used to people thinking my work is worth anything, she said softly. I think it's worth everything. Roman reached for her hand. I'd like to fund your first collection, she froze. What? I want to help you publish it professionally under your name, no strings. Her voice turned sharp. You don't get to buy my voice, Roman. I'm not trying to, he said, keeping his tone calm. I'm trying to give it a place to live. I've already spoken to a publisher I trust. You'd have full creative control. She stepped back. You didn't even ask me. I didn't want to embarrass you if you said no. Madelyn's heart pounded. This changes things, Roman. You don't get to pull out grand gestures and expect me to smile and say thank you. I'm not asking for thanks, he said. I'm asking for a chance to help you believe in yourself the way I do. She looked away, blinking hard. I don't want to be a project, she said, her voice cracking. I've been someone's responsibility before. It doesn't feel like love. Roman's jaw clenched. This isn't obligation. It's admiration. You don't even know what I'm capable of. I do, he said, because you've already changed me. She turned to face him fully, her voice shaking. Then stop trying to save me. I'm not. You always are, the rides, the dinners. The way you keep showing up when I don't ask you to. Roman stepped forward, closing the space between them. I show up because I want you, not because I think you need me. She stared at him, breathing hard. I didn't ask for you to fix my life. I know, he said quietly. But you've fixed mine. Madelyn's throat tightened. Why me? Because you saw me before the title, before the money. You asked about my family when no one else ever did. You sit with me in silence and make it feel like the loudest thing in the world. He reached out, brushing his fingers along the edge of her jaw. You make me want things I gave up on a long time ago. She closed her eyes, her voice barely audible. I don't know how to be part of your world. Roman took her hand and placed it over his chest. Then let's make a new one. She opened her eyes, her palm resting against the steady beat of his heart. You scare me, she whispered. Good, he said. You terrify me. They stood there, two people on the edge of something that felt both inevitable and brand new. I'm not ready to say yes to everything, she said. I'm not asking for everything, Roman replied. I'm asking for tomorrow, she nodded slowly. Tomorrow's a start. He leaned down and kissed her again, this time without hesitation, without fear. It was a kiss with edges, one that knew the weight of vulnerability and wanted it anyway. When they parted, Madelyn let out a slow breath. I'm still not letting you publish that notebook, she said. Roman gave a low laugh. Then I'll wait until you say yes. You'll be waiting a long time. I've waited for less. She looked at him, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like she was standing on the outside of something important. She felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Roman stood at the side entrance of the university library, his coat collar turned up against the wind, one hand clutching a small, flat box. The early spring breeze was cool, but the sky above was clear, the kind of blue that made everything below it feel possible. Madelyn wasn't late, she never was, but Roman had arrived early. He'd barely slept the night before, replaying the last few weeks over and over again. The quiet moments, the sharp words, the kiss on the rooftop, the way she'd looked at him after saying she wasn't ready for everything. Now he was ready to give her everything only if she wanted it. The door creaked open behind him. He turned just as Madelyn stepped out, a thin scarf wrapped around her neck, her expression unreadable until she saw him. Then something softened. You beat me here, she said. I wanted to, he replied. She stopped a few feet from him. You said we'd see what happens next. I did. And Roman held out the box. I don't want to make decisions for you, so this isn't an offer, it's a choice. Madelyn looked at it but didn't take it. What is it? A key. To the writing studio I had built last week. It's not in the city, it's upstate. Quiet, private, yours if you want it, no contract, no strings. She stared at him. You built a studio, I bought a cabin, renovated the inside, I didn't touch the woods around it. The air smells like pine. Why would you do that? Because you told me you could never write in the city, that the noise gets in your head. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I said that once, I remembered. Madelyn looked down at the box. You really spent all that money just so I could have silence. I'd spend 1,000 times more if it gave you peace. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she sat down on the stone bench near the steps, the scarf slipping slightly from her shoulder. I've been thinking about something, she said. Roman sat beside her without a word. I used to come here to escape, she continued, from everything. From expectations, from bills, from how small I felt compared to the world. And then you showed up and I wasn't escaping anymore, I was arriving. Roman pressed his hands together, listening. I've spent so long being afraid of what accepting love might cost me. I've watched people use it to control, to manipulate, to make others feel small. But you never once asked me to be less. Even when I pushed, even when I told you I didn't need anything. I never wanted you to need me, Roman said. I just wanted you to know I'm here. She turned to him, her eyes steady. I don't want the studio. He nodded slowly, forcing a breath. Okay, I want you. His head turned sharply, meeting her gaze. I want the dinners that aren't planned, the mornings when we're late because we couldn't stop laughing. I want to fight with you and grow with you and question everything together. I don't want a cabin in the woods, I want a life with you. Roman didn't speak. He reached into his coat again and pulled out a second box, this one smaller, velvet-lined. Madelyn's breath caught. Roman, I wasn't expecting today to be the day, he said, but I've carried this for weeks. Just in case. She looked at the box but didn't reach for it. I'm not proposing because I think it's time, he said. I'm proposing because you're the only person I want to build time with. Her eyes filled, but she didn't blink them away. He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple. Elegant. A single oval diamond set on a thin platinum band. I don't need you to say yes right now, he added. But if you know, if even a part of you knows, then I'm asking. Madelyn stood, the wind catching the edge of her coat. Roman rose slowly, never taking his eyes off her. She reached for the box, closed it gently, then placed it in his hand. I don't want to say yes right now. His jaw flexed, but he nodded. I want to say yes forever. He barely had time to react before she threw her arms around him, burying her face in his shoulder. Roman held her tightly, the ring still in his hand, his heart racing. When she pulled back, he searched her face. Are you sure? I've never been more certain of anything in my life, she said. He slid the ring onto her finger, then kissed her with everything he was, every scar, every hope, every version of himself he'd once buried beneath boardrooms and balance sheets. When they parted, she rested her forehead against his. Our story started in a library, she said. I think it's only right we write the rest of it together. Roman laughed, breathless. I was hoping you'd say something poetic. Madelyn grinned. I'm a writer. What did you expect? They walked hand in hand down the campus steps, the city stretching out before them. They didn't speak of the past or the what-ifs or the maybes. Only the now. Only the next. And somewhere, far above the skyline, the world turned quietly on. But for them, time had finally stopped running away and started running toward something far greater than either of them had ever imagined. The late afternoon sun bathed the private garden in golden light, filtering through the tall hedges surrounding the Steele estate. The scent of blooming magnolias hung in the air, and the sound of a string quartet floated softly from the stone patio. Guests mingled beneath silk-draped canopies, sipping champagne and exchanging quiet congratulations. Madelyn stood at the edge of the reflecting pool, her fingers brushing the delicate lace at the edge of her sleeve. Her dress was unlike anything she'd ever worn, ivory silk that moved like water and a neckline that dipped just enough to make her feel both elegant and daring. She felt like herself, only more sharper, stronger seen. Roman approached from behind, his footsteps muted on the flagstone. She didn't turn, she didn't need to. This was your idea of small, she asked, eyes on the garden's reflection. It's under 100 people, he said. That's as close to small as my family lawyer would allow. She turned to face him. You look like you walked out of a Bond movie. He adjusted the cuff of his tailored jacket. I was going for timeless. Did I overshoot? A little, she said, stepping closer. But I'm not complaining. He took her hand, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. You could have said no. I could have, she said, voice soft, but I didn't, and I won't. They stood in silence, the hum of the celebration fading around them. Your father's speech was beautiful, Roman said. I didn't know he used to be a jazz musician. He doesn't talk about it much, she said. It reminds him of who he used to be before everything changed. He said you were the only reason he picked up his trumpet again. Madelyn lifted her shoulders. I just reminded him that love doesn't disappear, it just waits. Roman nodded slowly. Like us, she looked at him. We didn't wait, we chose. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a slim envelope. I wasn't sure if now was the right time. She took it, lifting an eyebrow. What is this? Something I've been working on, he said. It's not a gift, it's a partnership. Curious, she opened the envelope and slipped out the letter inside. Her eyes scanned the page, widening with every line. You bought a publishing house, she asked, stunned. I invested in one, he corrected. And I want you to run the new imprint for emerging voices, writers who need someone to believe in them. Her breath caught. You want me to run it? I don't want a figurehead, he said. I want you, your taste, your vision. Your fire. She folded the letter carefully. You're not scared I'll fail. I'm scared you'll outshine me, he said, grinning, but I'll take the risk. She looked up at him, something fierce and grateful blooming in her chest. I don't want to be the girl you saved. You've never been that, he said. You're the woman I chose to rise with. She slid her arms around his neck. I love you. I know, he murmured, pulling her in. And I've never loved anything more than the life we're building. They kissed as the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the grass. Later, as evening settled and the lights twinkled in the trees, they stole away from the garden and climbed the winding stairs to the rooftop terrace. The same one where they'd fought and fallen into something neither of them had the words for back then. Roman poured 2 glasses of wine and passed her one. How does it feel to be married to a billionaire? Madelyn leaned against the railing, one hand on her hip. Underwhelming, he laughed. I can buy a jet if that helps. Don't be ridiculous, she said. We'd never use it unless we're going to Greece. No interest in Paris. I want to write in Santorini. You can pace on the balcony and pretend to be brooding. I don't pretend, he said. I'm naturally brooding. They laughed, clinking their glasses together. Below, the city lights flickered on, but up here, time once again slowed. I was thinking, Roman said, we should go back to the library next Friday. Madelyn tilted her head. You're not worried they'll recognize you? I'm counting on it, he said. I want to sit at our table and kiss my wife in the middle of the stacks. Let them talk. You're absurd. I'm in love. She looked at him, her husband, her partner, the man who had unraveled every wall she'd built and stood steady beside her as she redefined herself. I want to write our story someday, she said. He leaned in. Make it a trilogy. But she shook her head. No, just one book, no cliffhangers, no second guesses, just one full, complete, impossibly beautiful story. Roman ran his fingers along her jaw. Then we better make every page count, and they did. Over the years, Madelyn's imprint became a haven for writers who had been overlooked. Her poetry collection, published quietly and without fanfare, made its way into the right hands and stayed there. Roman expanded his company but never missed a Friday. They traveled, not to escape, but to gather experiences they could bring home. Their days were not always perfect, but they were honest, full, shared, and every night when the world quieted, Madelyn would curl against Roman's chest and feel exactly what she'd once believed was impossible: safe. Loved, home. Their story didn't end with a dramatic twist or a final revelation. It ended the way all great stories do, with 2 people choosing each other every single day.